Just one race into the 99 Hydro season and the gauntlet has already been laid down. The victorious return of hydroplane legend Chip Hanauer has put the heat squarely on the shoulders of defending champ Dave Villwock. Hanauer showed early on that Miss Pico will be a force on the water, and it'll be up to his former teammate Villwock to stave him off in the next event. These two boats are the ones to beat. These two drivers face off again as the unlimited hydroplanes invade our neighbors to the north for Budweiser Thunderfest. Welcome to ESPN Speed World coverage of the Ralph's Hydro's Thunder Tour, presented by Las Vegas. It is a beautiful day for racing on the water as the hydroplanes come to Canada for the second event of the season. Hydroplane racing comes north of the border as we welcome you to Barrie, Ontario, about 1 hour north of Toronto. Hi, everyone. I'm Rich Hollenberg. Thanks for tuning in. I'm joined by Steve Montgomery. And Steve, our second event of the 99 Hydro season, second brand new venue we've been to, and this one is just as gorgeous as the first.
Absolutely a beautiful spot for boat racing. We're on Kempenfelt Bay, part of a much larger Lake Simcoe. And the residents, the citizens of Barrie, Ontario, have really been excited about having the big boats here. The only problem is that our normal 2 or 2.5 mile water oval wouldn't fit on the bay here. So we have a triangle-shaped course, 3 straightaways, 3 turns. It's a lot different for the big unlimiteds and their drivers, but they tell us they think it'll make for a great competition.
Well, the main competition is going to be coming right from the top. Chip Hanauer and Dave Villwock, the renewal of a tremendous rivalry in hydroplane racing. Chip won in his first race back from 3 years off in Havasu City, and Dave Villwock and Miss Budweiser still the overall points leader.
Having Chip win his first time back in a boat after 3 years definitely put fuel on the fire of the rivalry, which is amazing when you consider that in 1989 the two were teammates. Dave Villwock, the crew chief on the Miss Circus Circus, which Chip Hanauer drove to the national championship. In fact, it was Chip who brought Dave up from the limited ranks for that job. Watching him today in the pits, hard to believe they were ever teammates and very good friends.
The Villwock-Hanauer rivalry is just one of the many stories we'll be showing you in this show. A great day of racing lays ahead from Canada. And Steve, another great story has been the rookie Greg Hopp, a good showing in the first race of the season in Havasu City, back here with a new sponsor in Barrie.
Greg Hopp qualified as an unlimited driver less than a year ago in the Tri-Cities.
And Chip Hanauer, as we mentioned, the winner in Lake Havasu City, qualifying second.
Boy, would he love to make it 2 in a row over Dave Villwock. It's a long shot, but it was in Havasu too.
Dave Villwock obviously still the man to beat, even though he didn't finish in first place in Havasu City. He did qualify first here in Barrie.
And by quite a bit. To say the Budweiser team has their game faces on would be an understatement.
And look who's back. Miss Madison with Todd Yarling at the helm, qualifying fourth.
Always want to call him young Todd Yarling because that's what he was in the 80s when he did a lot of driving, mostly with piston power.
Kim Gregory's Miss York International, piloted by Mark Webber, qualifying third.
This team really coming together. They get better and better every lap on the water.
And last but not least, qualifying in the Freddy's Club boat is Steve David.
What we're going to do, Rich, is have Steve David, driver of the U2 Freddy's Club and a veteran of many, many different race courses across North America, take us out on the rescue boat at about 40 or 50 miles per hour, not 190 or 200. Show us how they handle the straightaways, the corners, the starting procedure, etc. Okay?
We're trying to give the fans at home a better understanding of what's going on in the cockpit before the start.
We'll give you the microphone and go for it at about 40 or 50, okay?
Thanks, Steve. See you later. Right now, we're on the short straightaway. As we're approaching the start of this race, this is where we would all have to be in our assigned lanes. Now, there's not marked lanes on the water, but it's 15 feet per boat plus a 10-foot separation. We're now rounding, approaching the starting clock. At this point, you're accelerating from about 130 and 140 up to the start-finish line where we'll want to be wide open, which on this course, which is triangular shape, is almost 200 miles an hour. That's just about the speed we'd be at this point. Now we're approaching the starting line. On either side of us are red and white 8-foot high pillows. That's the starting line. You want to be wide open here. You're 6 boats abreast, and there's only 10-foot separation between each boat. You're building speed going through 180, 185, 190, 195. At this point, you're about 200 miles an hour. This is the second longest straightaway on this course. This is a triangular shaped course. Most of our courses are oval. This one has 3 turns. We're now approaching turn 1. As you go around this turn, it's a 135-degree bend, meaning we're going to absolutely change directions. As you round this, you're still wide open on the throttle, but the boat itself will slow down because of the force of water on your sponsons. You'll slow down from 200 down in the vicinity of about 130 to 135. We're now at what's called the apex of the turn, which is the center. It's the slowest speed the boat would be traveling. After this, you're accelerating again. Not because the pedal is down, you're wide open anyways, but the boat's starting to gather air, starting to get what we call loose in the water and fly. We're now in the longest part of the straightaway. If you'd picture a triangle, this is the longest side of this triangle. This is where we're building the greatest amount of speed. You're at 200 plus miles an hour at this point. The danger on this particular course is we've got the shoreline of downtown Barrie over there, and it's rock and seawall. So you've got rollers coming back from that shoreline onto the fastest part of the course. As we come up to the next turn, it's a 90-degree turn. So you've got rollers lifting the boat, and you're trying to turn left. The danger here is the right sponson getting up, getting too much air, and doing a sideways blowover, or your left side coming up, the turn fin not holding on the water, and sliding out several lanes. When you slide out several lanes, there's a risk of taking out other boats. So you have to be very conscious of holding a tight lane if you're in lane 1. If the boat in lane 2 has speed over you, it's going to hold the straight lane, and you're going to have to run through its rooster tail. That can cost you a race.
Thank you to Steve David. Never at a loss for words, is he, Steve?
Not at 50 miles an hour, but I've listened to the radios in the Harvey camp when he's at 190 to 200, and Steve really doesn't have much to say when he's racing. This was the scene yesterday, Rich. The Bud Shootout put the top 4 qualifiers on the water, racing for $5,000, and it gave the fans here a chance to see hydro racing for the first time.
And guess who won? None other than Dave Villwock and Miss Budweiser.
Dave, the Shootout gave you a chance to go racing on the 3-cornered race course. What did you learn?
Well, Miss Budweiser is fast. It's rough out there in the first turn, so that's going to be something everybody's going to have to contend with. But luckily, we got the Miss Budweiser out front and started our first step at kicking Chip Hanauer's ass this weekend.
Who gets the $5,000?
I don't know. They're going to have to fight over it.
Very diplomatic of Mr. Villwock. ESPN coverage of Hydro's Unlimited Racing is brought to you by Las Vegas. Anything can happen, and usually does when it comes to special events. By Ralph's, first in savings, first in Southern California. And by O'Doul's non-alcoholic brew. It's what beer drinkers drink when they're not drinking beer. Welcome back to Ralph's Thunder Tour, presented by Las Vegas from Barrie, Ontario.
Anytime the Budweiser team doesn't win in unlimited hydroplane racing, you have a pretty big story. And of course, that's what happened in our season opener at Lake Havasu. So now the Bud team comes to Barrie, Ontario with a new level of determination. So the rest of the field will have to deal with one of the top teams in all of motorsports who have come here very determined.
And Steve, that determination paying off in Heat 1. It was Budweiser out in front, not looking back.
One of the advantages Dave Villwock has is his boat's ability to handle turns. So when you put 3 turns on the race course as opposed to our usual 2, it just seems to add to Miss Budweiser's advantage.
Another real good start for Dave Villwock and the Miss Budweiser team right behind me. The Big Red came in first in Heat 1B, which has usually been the case for the last couple of years. Villwock said that they're not going to make any changes going into the second heat, but as the day changes and the temperature changes and more boats get on the water here, they expect some changes later on in the day. Continuing to look at Miss Budweiser and Dave Villwock in Heat 2, continued success for that team, as it usually is.
Off to Dave's right, your left, that's Steve David and the Freddy's Club, and Greg Hopp outside, bouncing around a little bit in the United Furniture. No real challenge here for Villwock.
The waters got a little bit rough on Kempenfelt Bay and Lake Simcoe, but Miss Budweiser did hold off the field to win Heat 2B.
David, looked like it got a little bit rougher that time.
That's a little rougher, but actually the crew did it, and again adjusted to the situation. Boat's really good, so we're looking forward to the next heat.
The York Air Conditioning Team, owned by Kim Gregory of Las Vegas and driven by Mark Weber out of St. Clair Shores, Michigan, has proven to be very fast and very consistent. Still, one of the newest teams in unlimited racing. They've been together less than a year. They have already a victory in the final event of 1998 at Honolulu. This will be one of the teams to watch here in Barrie, Ontario.
And since they are one of the teams to watch, let's do just that. Heat 1, York International running very well.
As the Budweiser rooster tail drops down in front of us, we see the York International coming through after making a very good start, and at this point running ahead of Hanauer and Miss Pico.
Heat 1 continued success for Miss York International. There you see they finished second right behind the Budweiser in 1B. According to the Miss York International camp, a second-place finish in Heat 1B is pretty good. They're pretty happy with the performance of the boat on the water here in Barrie, and they said they're just going to be minor tweaks for Heat 2, but they are going to make a little bit of an electrical change in the cockpit as they head into Heat 2 and later on for Heat 3. And in Heat 2, you see the blue boat. That's Miss Pico, driven by Chip Hanauer, but it is Miss York International that was the leader despite that.
Hanauer appears to be leading, but he's not. We'll have more on that just a little bit later.
And here's a good look from our O'Doul's Eye in the Sky of Miss York International, driven by the winner of Heat 2A, Mark Webber, and he gets some well-deserved applause and hugs from his family and fans. A win for Mark Webber and the Miss York International in Heat 2, but they are not being complacent. They're changing engines on the boat, and they said the reason they're doing that is because they want to test out the engine condition in a heat race before deciding what engine they're going to use in the final. Very happy with the way the boat ran in Heat 2, but they're not resting on their laurels for Heat 3.
One of the most historic names in unlimited hydroplane racing, Miss Madison, rejoins us for at least 5 events here in 1999. The team, owned by the 13,000 citizens of Madison, Indiana, had been in semi-retirement due to lack of sponsorship. But the volunteer crew now has put the boat back together, and they will rejoin us for part of the circuit. The driver will be Todd Yarling of Hanover, Indiana, very near Madison. Most of Todd's experience came in the 80s with piston power, but he has adapted very well to the turbine, and Miss Madison has looked very good here in Barrie.
So I guess, Steve, the story so far in the 99 Hydro season is Todd Yarling along with Chip Hanauer, 2 legendary drivers returning to racing.
This boat looked very good in qualifying. Todd definitely opening some eyes. He didn't have a lot of turbine experience. Drove the boat to a victory in Heat 1A and really surprised everybody. Little confusion on the start, but you knew what was going on, huh?
Yeah, there's people going everywhere, and I just tried to stay away from them. I almost ended up getting caught in the mess, but that was our plan, to stay clear. Let me get a heat under my belt. I can't believe I won the first one.
Well, after a long layoff for Todd Yarling, obviously showing no signs of rust, a great start and a great finish, a first-place finish in Heat 1A. I spoke to him right after he ran the boat on the water, and he said they are making no changes going into Heat 2, but he did hint that they were going to make a change from Heat 2 to Heat 3. Just a hint that there's going to be some big changes and hopefully some big finishes for Todd Yarling later on in the day. And in Heat 2, Yarling got a lane 3 start for that heat, and you see a good look at it from the O'Doul's Eye in the Sky. Not exactly where you want to be.
No, but the boat between Todd Yarling and the white boat and Dave Villwalk and Miss Budweiser, Steve David penalized a lap. Second place for Miss Madison.
Just some routine engine maintenance for Miss Madison after Heat 2 going into Heat 3. They benefited from the Steve David penalty and finished in second in Heat 2, so they're still pretty happy with the way the boat is running. The only change they're making going into the next heat, the wing up top, they're going to give it a little more lift to account for the rough water conditions. A lot more racing to go from the Budweiser Thunderfest in Barrie, Ontario. Heat 3A is coming up next on ESPN Speed World.
Hey, John.
Welcome back to Ralph's Thunder Tour from Barrie, Ontario. The Budweiser Thunderfest, presented by Las Vegas. Heat 3A is on the water and set to begin.
3 drivers we've talked about drawn into this heat, and Dave Villwalk tucks the Miss Budweiser over into lane 1. Right beside him, the yellow boat, the York International with Mark Webber, and Todd Yarling is out in lane 3 in the Miss Madison. They are joined by Mike Hansen in a plain white boat coming by right there on the outside with good boat speed. That's the Jones Racing U9.
And you see in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, that's the countdown to the start. They are all set, and let's see if we get a clean start. And it looks like we do. They are off, and you get a good vantage point from the O'Doul's Eye in the Sky. It's Miss Budweiser and York International deck to deck right now.
And you saw Mark Webber's boat running with the Budweiser as far as shoot speed was concerned, but Budweiser had the inside, and of course a boat that turns very, very well. From this point on, Dave Villwock should have this race under control, but Mark Webber, you saw him swing out of the picture. There he is. He's running with the Bud as far as straightaway speed, but all these corners, Rich, really, I think, add to the Budweiser advantage.
You are absolutely right, and of course, when you're in lane 1, you have a shorter distance to travel. There's the York right behind the Budweiser in lane 2 and trying to close. Oh, there is Miss Madison, and Miss Madison is upside down as they tried to make the turn. Yarling is in the water.
Back in the Rooster Tails, Todd Yarling and the Miss Madison apparently got into one. There comes Mike Hansen in the white boat coming by. Now in our spot shadow, that's the bottom of Miss Madison up in the air. So he apparently got into Hansen's Rooster Tail, and the tremendous force back there just lifted the boat out of the water, turned it over. Here's Eric Steelau and the UHRA rescue crew arriving. They take the hatch off the bottom of the boat. Todd's legs, he's obviously conscious. That's good news. He's assisting a little bit in his own extrication. I'm sure he's very wet by now, Rich, but he'll be glad to be out of the boat. He's been hanging upside down in a 5-point harness, waiting to be rescued.
Luckily, he did not have to wait that long. The rescue crew getting out there very quickly. It is important to mention that they have an oxygen supply in their cockpit if it does take a little while to get there. Yarling seems to be okay. We'll see what other drama unfolds as we return with the rest of Heat 3A on ESPN Speed World. Todd Yarling and the Miss Madison going upside down in Heat 3A in Barrie, Ontario, waiting for medical treatment. Steve Montgomery is on the scene.
Todd, you were having such a great day. What happened?
Had a little bad luck that time.
Steve, obviously Todd a little short on words. You can understand that.
Patty Darling, the UHRA medical director, has him under tow, and her doctors will check him out before he's allowed to deal with the media or go back to the pit area.
And of course the heat has to restart, so we have Miss Budweiser, Miss York International. It is Miss York International that has the inside lane now.
But the bad news for Mark Webber is that Budweiser out in lane 2 has the lead, which means Villwock once again is in control. He'll leave a lane in there for Mark, but not a big one.
There you see Mike Hansen and Jones Racing Boat on the outside taking the wide turn, currently in 3rd place in this heat, and it is Miss Budweiser on the outside, actually in lane 2 with the lead, followed by Miss York International, the yellow boat, driven by Mark Webber in lane 1, but in 2nd place.
And you can see the challenge that Mark has now at 190, 200 miles an hour. He has to stay in lane 1 because to his right, a Rooster Tail. Now the Budweiser gets out far enough ahead that Mark can move out of that slot if he wants to.
Now we take a look at what Dave Villwock is seeing from his 1st place position in Heat 3A. We are on board with Dave Villwock and Miss Budweiser. From our vantage point of the O'Doul's eye in the sky angle, you can see it's clear sailing for Dave Villwock.
That shot really shows you how Villwock uses the skid fin and the rudder to turn the hydroplane. It's cocked a little bit in the turn, and now he straightens it out to head down that long straightaway and cranks it up from 150 to about 190 miles per hour on this race course.
The average speed for that lap actually 146, or just shy of 146 miles per hour. There you see Miss York International, Mark Webber, currently driving 2nd. And Steve, this is why they call it hydroplane racing. The boats are bobbing up and down on the water. Rough weather conditions, rough water conditions as well as it gets later in the day, and these boats are riding on top of the water.
The worst thing that can happen to a hydroplane driver is to not have the power and the boat speed to get up on top of that chop, because it's really rough if you're not skimming across the top of these waves and rollers, as Villwock obviously doing, and Mark Webber getting a very good ride out there in the yellow boat, the York International.
Mike Hansen trailing far behind in 3rd place. Right now it is all Miss Budweiser, looking for a 3rd straight win on the day from Barrie, Ontario. Another look on board Miss Budweiser, and again, all he sees is clear skies in front of him. Dave Villwock is going to easily win Heat 3A and make it a 3rd straight win, a trifecta, if you will, on the afternoon.
But if he bobbles in any way, should Miss Budweiser hit one of those holes, and there are some out there, he can scrape off 50 to 100 miles an hour immediately, and Mark Webber is right there where he should be, keeping the pressure on Villwock.
You're right, Stephen. Let's not take anything away from Mark Webber. A great Heat 3A for Webber and Miss York International, but there it is. Too little too late as Miss Budweiser crosses the finish line and wins Heat 3A. And Mike Hansen finishes a little farther behind in third place. Todd Yarling was checked out, and Steve's with him now.
Todd, the good news is it looks like you're okay.
Yeah, I'm okay. Unfortunately, I don't know. The boat's not okay. I'm not sure how bad it's hurt, but I did see the wing laying out there.
You've had a great weekend so far, but what happened?
Well, it was racing, and we got down there into the corner, got a little tight, and right at the time I set the skid fin to go into the turn, it got real tight, and I just ended up climbing a rooster tail sideways, and I didn't have much steering once I left the water. I almost brought her back down, but then it climbed on up again. I think I hit the skid fin rooster tail first, but I brought it back down off of it, and then I hit the big rooster tail, and she just went up sideways on me.
Got a week or two now to get it fixed, whatever the damage is. We will see you back on the circuit, we hope.
Oh, definitely. We're going to work around the clock and put her back on the water.
Glad you're okay.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Good to see Todd Yarling up and around on his own 2 feet. Miss Budweiser wins Heat 3A, making it 3 out of 3. Mark Webber and York International in second. Jones Racing in third.
David, it's a heat win, but it's also 1,200 points now toward the national championship. A pretty good leg up.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's once again, Hanauer screwed up a couple times today and allowed us to get more points. So no matter what happens in the final, we're still going to come out okay. So we're looking for points, and now we can go after the win.
How is Chip Hanauer going to respond to the challenge from Dave Vilwalk? We'll have more on that coming up next. Even though the hydroplanes are out on the water in beautiful Kempenfelt Bay in Barrie, Ontario, Canada, of course there are other attractions to occupy the minds of fans both young and old. Chip Hanauer and the Miss Pico team trying to make it 2 for 2 on the 99 Hydros Tour. Here's Steve with the story.
Even when you're Chip Hanauer with 58 career victories in unlimited hydroplanes, nobody can expect you to come out of a 3-year retirement and be competitive your first time in a brand new boat. But Hanauer did exactly that in Havasu, defeating his old teammate, Dave Vilwalk, in Miss Budweiser. You had to call it an upset. Can it happen again here in Barrie? Well, we'll see.
And Steve, in Heat 1, it looked like Miss Pico was out to the early lead, but he was penalized a lap.
Some good close racing between the Pico and the Budweiser. Chip Hanauer felt he got the short end of the stick.
A 4th place finish in Heat 1B for Miss Pico and driver Chip Hanauer. Chip, you were just talking to Commissioner Muscatel about what happened with you and Miss Budweiser. Why don't you tell us about it?
It just got a little tight in there. Dave came from the outside and went around us and didn't leave me a lot of room, got me a little bit wet, but no big deal.
Any changes going into Heat 2?
I'd like to find more speed real quick, but I don't know what the chances of that are.
A tough day to start just gets tougher for Chip Hanauer in Heat 2. He missed a scoring buoy and gets penalized for that.
This is before the start. He has to go around that buoy on the right side. He went on the left, and the referee saw it.
Despite missing the scoring buoy before the start of the race and incurring a 1-lap penalty in Heat 2, the camp here at Miss Pico still very happy with the way the boat ran and the way Chip Hanauer drove it. There were whispers that they were going to change the engine for Heat 3, but that is not the case. Crew Chief Ken Dryden said they're keeping everything the same and they're going to run the same boat in Heat 3.
A brand new front control service known as a canard and a new center section were on driver Steve David's Christmas wish list. Jim Harvey spent the winter completely rebuilding his U2, racing here as the Freddy's Club. Well, Steve David has a virtually new race boat. It is lighter, quicker, more manageable, and expected to be a contender here in 1999.
Unfortunately for Steve David, not contending in Heat 1, he got a very bad start and is in the back of the pack.
A little confusion at the start?
No, I just messed up. I was about 6 seconds late, and that, at these speeds, that's a 1,500-foot advantage, and the race was over at the start.
You're in the right time zone and everything, though.
Well, I was on Eastern Standard U.S. I gotta change the Canadian time, so I won't do that again.
And in Heat 2, more problems. It looks like Steve David is blowing past Miss Budweiser. Actually, the race is already over. Steve David's running his penalty lap. Despite that 1-lap penalty in Heat 2, everything is steady as she goes in Steve David's camp. Everyone very happy with the way the boat's running, except for that buoy getting in the way in Heat 2. So Heat 3, expect to see much of the same from Steve David.
The biggest surprise to come out of the season opener at Lake Havasu was the performance of young Greg Hopp, driving on a team put together by his dad, Jerry, the veteran unlimited driver and now owner, if you will. One thing's for sure, after 2 heat victories at Havasu and a strong third-place finish in the final, they won't be sneaking up on anybody.
Greg Hopp started great in Lake Havasu, but did not start nearly as well in Barrie, Ontario. He had trouble starting the boat and was a half lap down when the heat began. The United Furniture Warehouse team owner Jerry Hopp is not so much concerned with what's going on between Heats 1 and Heats 2 for his son and driver Greg Hopp. He's more concerned with what happened before Heat 1. What happened was Greg got some water in the engine went dead, and they just barely made the start line without being disqualified. They finished in third, so Jerry was happy, Greg was happy, and they're not making any changes going into Heat 2. Steve, things got a little better for Greg Hopp in Heat 2. He ran a respectable second.
Second and third place finishes are really what this team is looking for, and a good solid spot in the final heat. Anything can happen.
Second place finish for Greg Hopp in Heat 2. Going into Heat 3, he said there's really not a lot of work to do on the boat, just some minor tinkering heading into Heat 3, but he didn't hint that there might be something major coming up between Heat 3 and the final. We'll just have to wait and see about that one. None of the drivers here at the Budweiser Thunderfest tipping their hands. We'll see what happens in Heat 3B coming up next.
Heat 3B on the water as we come back to Barrie, Ontario. 4 drivers looking for a spot in the final. Dave Vilwalk has one.
We're heading into the finals, and Miss Budweiser's in a familiar position. Pilot Dave Vilwalk, owner Bernie Little. Bernie, obviously you got to be happy with the way things are going in Barrie.
Yeah, I really am. Those are 1,200 points. It's hard to come by. And we've had three wins, and we're going for the 4th. But at least we're going out of here with the point spread. And that's naturally what we're looking for.
You give your team a pep talk before? Any kind of Newt Rockney speeches?
No, I really don't. I let Dave do that. He kicks them in the butt, and we all go to work.
Well, Dave, you've been the one kicking butt. You've done real well in your heats, and now you're heading into the finals. What do you expect for the final?
Doing good. I expect a lot more. A lot of people were running over each other earlier and running over buoys and all kinds of things. So we're just going to try to keep clear all the boat parts, and hopefully we can get Miss Budweiser out front. So we'll see if we can pull it off.
Your boat's clean and healthy, though, right?
Yeah, guys have done a great job. I mean, it's been clean and healthy all weekend long. So, you know, I can't ask for any more than that.
Bernie and Dave, the dynamic duo of hydroplane racing, going into the final.
Meanwhile, back on the water, Rich, 3B is about to start. Chip Hanauer looking for a spot in the final with Dave, as well as Greg Hopp, who will be in lane 2. Steve David has the Freddy's Club out in lane 3, and Piston Power out in lane 4. That's Mike Weber in the Master Tire, making a very good start, by the way.
It is a good start there. You see Piston Power on the outside, but it is Miss Pico making a charge right now in lane 1 and taking that lead into the turn.
Getting a little narrow there for Greg Hopp in lane 2, but Steve David leaves him a lane. Nice job of leaving room for the rookie there. And Hanauer moves the Pico out to a nice lead here. Hanauer's starts have been miraculously good this year for a guy who should be out of practice.
Well, you talk to all these drivers, and they say that everyone's getting more aggressive when it comes to getting a good start. Hanauer got the good start in this heat, and now he looks very good on the water. But right behind him, if he looks in his side view mirror, he'll see Greg Hopp.
Up to that point, Hanauer did not have enough of a lead to move over and take lane 1 away from Hopp. At this point, he does, but the gentleman that he is, Chip kind of leaves room in there for the rookie. Not easy to hold your boat in lane 1, though, when that rooster tail is right on your right.
Steve David also trying to stay in contention. Here's a look from the O'Doul's Eye in the Sky, and Chip Hanauer and Miss Pico trying to extend their lead into the turn and turning very well.
Yes, he is. Now here comes Steve David in the Freddy's Club. He's going to move his boat over inside the Pico. Now there are 2 boats to Chip Hanauer's left, and I hope, Rich, that he knows that because he has to leave room for them. Steve David in the Freddy's Club moves up into 2nd place.
A terrific cornering job by Steve David and Jim Harvey's boat, the U2. And there you see Chip Hanauer bouncing on the water, some rough driving conditions. Hanauer in 1st, followed by David, and it's Greg Hopp in 3rd. But it's going to be Chip Hanauer retaining the lead and extending that lead as much as he could over David and Hopp.
And staying outside far enough, knowing he has the race under control. Now he tucks it in a little bit on the buoy line, but the other 2 boats are far enough back, Rich. I don't think they'll have a problem with the rooster tail or the wake.
Currently in 4th, Ed Cooper Sr.'s boat, the Master Tire. and driven by Mike Weber. Always behind in the pack. It's a piston-powered engine, but he's doing a good job on the water in Barrie.
You saw Hanauer in the Pico at 134+ miles per hour. That's a good, quick competition lap. Getting a good ride on a bay that can get choppy, particularly out at the top end of the race course, which is in the middle of Kempenfeld Bay. Here's a good look at a hydroplane ride, Rich. You see the sponsons just referencing the water, about half the propeller in the water at any one time, and that's what throws up that big rooster tail.
And Steve, you kind of get the feeling that now that Chip Hanauer has this race pretty fairly secured, he's almost using it as a test run to see how he can corner and how he can handle this course when he goes into the finals.
Greg Hopp running in third place. That's where he'll finish. A good, strong finish for Hopp Racing and United Furniture. As Chip Hanauer takes a checkered flag in Heat 3B, Mike Weber and the piston-powered Master Tire will finish fourth. Rich Hollenberg is with Mike's brother Mark.
The big yellow boat of York International has had a heck of a day here at Barrie, Ontario. Mark Weber, what's it going to take to get over the top and win this final?
Lane 1, 2 at the worst. Dave Ilwach's got to be a tish late on the start. I think he is just there. They're dialed in. They got a fast accelerating boat. But, you know, the York International, we've been down the boat in all day in race conditions. And every time I come out of the boat, I like the boat better every heat. It's really handling very well in rough conditions. And that's contributed to this crew because I come in and say, well, I want to try something different. And every time they've given me something better. So that's good team working for a two-race team, 2-week team. That's not bad.
That's the way they're supposed to go, huh?
Yeah, finally. Got ourselves in a pretty dark hole there, and that was almost like a final for us. We had to win it to be in the final, so now I feel everything's gravy.
So what do you do in the final? You stick your nose on the inside and hope you don't get wet? That's the only chance you have?
Well, it's a good question. The problem with that is you stick your nose on the inside and hope you don't get wet. You might not be able to win from there, but then if you do get wet, you don't get anything else either. So we need to sit down and talk about it. I don't think I've got the boat that can beat the Bud today, so we'll have to sit down and see what we can, who we think we can beat.
The finals are set for the Unlimited Hydroplanes. The Unlimited Lights coming up next on ESPN Speed World.
Welcome back to Barrie, Ontario. We have automotive horsepower on Kempenfeld Bay. The Unlimited Lights about to run their final. First, here's Rich in the pits.
A win in Heat 3B is a good way to go into the finals. Chip Hanauer. This is very similar to what happened in Havasu. You're kind of getting better as the day goes on. Is that what you're gunning for?
Well, no, I don't like to get ourselves in a hole like we did, but I'm glad we dug ourselves out of it. And now we're back even in the final. We can go for the win now.
Here's the start now of our Unlimited Lights final from our O'Doul's Eye in the Sky. The two yellow boats on the inside are the Alamo with Bo Scheid out of Dayton, Ohio. Right next to him, Charlie Wiggins in the Earl's Performance. That is Bo there in the Alamo leading this heat at this point. Now the boat behind him is the one that was the Wildfire last year, driven by George Stratton and owned by Kim Gregory. And on the outside, the red boat is Phil Bonancini in the Pocket Mechanic.
Bo Scheid in the Alamo looking to exact a little revenge after failing to start in Havasu the first race of the season. It's going to be all season long, Wiggins and Bo Scheid.
Hooking it up with this kind of deck-to-deck. Whoa, that's a little too close. The two yellow boats getting together out front, the Alamo and the Earl's Performance. Somebody was not in his lane. He may have a call on this from the referee who's above the race course in a helicopter.
Well, someone lost a part there, and it looks like it's the inside boat. It looks like it's the Alamo, lost part of its tail.
There is damage to the right side of the Alamo. It does not appear to be slowing Bo Scheid down much. Let's see what happened here. The two boats turning left, and this is going to be a tough call for the referee because Bo and the Alamo carving a turn. Charlie Wiggins carves one just a little bit smaller, and the two get together. The referee has to decide who, if anyone, was at fault, or was it just one of them racing things? The two yellow boats continue to race. The Pocket Mechanic of Phil Bonancini, sponsored here by Impact Equipment. The Unlimited Lights continue to race as Rich checks in with a recent graduate of this class.
It's going to be tough to top the performance in Havasu City, but Greg Hopp, you're doing all right so far here in Barrie, Ontario. 2 seconds and a third. You feeling good going into the finals?
Oh yeah, you know, a couple seconds, a third. This United Furniture Warehouse hydroplane is just up and running, you know, close to top notch. We're gonna tweak it a little bit, maybe try to dial a little more horsepower. The all volunteer crew up there to get this baby up and going.
Now, I'm gonna put you on the spot. You said before that you might have a trick up your sleeve going into the final. You care to reveal anything?
I'm not gonna tell you my secrets now.
All right, we wish you luck.
All right, thanks a lot.
Back out on the water, the two yellow boats still hooked up. A little bit of an advantage for Charlie Wiggins and the Earls Performance. Bo Scheid driving a damaged boat very hard.
And Gadsden, Alabama must be proud of Charlie Wiggins, looking to make it 2 for 2 so far on the Unlimited Lights Hydroplane 99 season. Charlie Wiggins extending his lead a bit on Bo Scheid, the defending champion.
Here's the checkered flag for Charlie Wiggins and the Earls Performance, his second victory in 2 events.
Bo Scheid's going to finish in second place. Phil Bonancini in the red Pocket Mechanic is going to finish in third, but Charlie Wiggins is your Unlimited Lights winner. Today's Alamo Almanac is brought to you by Alamo Rent-A-Car. Ready, set, go. Come on and drive happy today.
One of the most historic names in hydroplane racing, Miss Madison, racing with us once again. This was the scene in 1971. Jim McCormick driving a piston-powered boat to the Gold Cup victory. The medallion on the front of that boat, the same as the one on the tail of this one 28 years later.
They've been racing all day to get to this point. The finals of the Unlimited Hydroplanes are set to begin. Bernie Little and Dave Vilwalk hoping for a victory, the first one of the 99 season.
But look where they are on the race course, way outside. Greg Hopp has the inside. Hanauer's in lane 2. Then a couple of boats between him and Vilwalk. Mark Webber in lane 3. Steve David and the Freddy's Club in lane 4. The Budweiser way outside. He's going to have to go around the entire field. Hanauer has this thing so far going just the way he wants it as they bunch up and head into the first turn.
And look how tight they are after Hanauer with the lead.
Whoa, look out. That's the yellow boat, the York International. Got into a rooster tail, and we have our second crash of the day. This heat will be stopped. The rescue crew will head for the York International, and hopefully, once again, the driver will be okay.
Just like we saw Todd Yarling go upside down earlier in the day, we got to hope that Mark Webber is going to be okay from this one, and it was a nasty one.
Here's the replay now as the field sets up for the left turn. The first turn gets a little tight there in lane 3 where Mark Webber is. He gets into Steve David's rooster tail, and the boat goes upside down. The question will be, was there a lane there? You have to leave room for the boat running to your left, and that is very, very close.
We knew it was going to be an exciting final, but no one hopes for this kind of excitement and this kind of drama. All eyes are on York International upside down. Mark Webber receiving attention, so at least he's out of the cockpit. The other boats are in the pits, and Steve is with Chip.
Chip, you had everybody right where you wanted them. You feel like an opportunity might have slipped away here?
Yeah, I feel like an opportunity slipped away, but more important than that, Mark is all right. So, yeah, I'm disappointed. I think we were on our way to the bank maybe, but more important, Mark is healthy, and Todd Yarling's healthy too. We've had 2 flips today, and both of them are okay. So whatever happens now in the final, I'll take it and smile.
As you can imagine, this type of accident really puts everything in perspective.
The referee, the commissioner, one of the drivers discussing the incident as we wait for the call.
So he's back. Sounds like Mark's going to be okay. Talk about how you were feeling going into the final before that happened.
Good. You know, the other guys, again, they got up too early, so I was able to carry a lot of boat speed on the outside and, you know, was ready to move to the front. But, you know, then the York boat got upside down, so it's a do-over.
You feel good about your chances, though? You felt good about how it was running so far?
Yeah, boat's running great. You know, the boat's really, really smooth. You know, we just got to get the starting line on time, and, you know, hopefully the other guys get up early again.
Referee Mike Noonan, you were above the incident in the helicopter. We understand there will not be a call. What did you see?
Well, it was the opinion of all the referees that viewed the tape that there was a lane there. A lane is very narrow when you get to that point. There was no chop, no cutoff. He got the lane got tight. I got a little water, a little spray off the U2, got on him on his right spots, and it couldn't hold it. He couldn't turn when the other boats turned.
So close racing, but no penalties called.
No penalties.
Thank you.
The good news is Mark Webber will be okay. More good news, we're going to get another restart of this exciting final. Back to the boats. We'll try again when we come back on ESPN Speed World's coverage of hydroplane racing. ESPN coverage of Hydro's Unlimited Racing has been brought to you by Las Vegas. Anything can happen and usually does when it comes to special events. By Ralph's, first in savings, first in Southern California. And by O'Doul's non-alcoholic brew. It's what beer drinkers drink when they're not drinking beer. Two crashes on the day on Lake Simcoe and Kempenfelt Bay, but now we are back to racing and ready to start the final.
And once again, Hanauer will be well inside of Budweiser out in lane 3. Greg Hopp between them. Steve David in lane 4 in the Freddy's Club, and out in lane 5, the piston-powered Master Tire with Mike Weber. Still about 20 seconds to go before the start of this race. The boat's scoring up now, Rich. The lanes have been chosen, so that part has been decided.
And you heard some gamesmanship on the part of Dave Villwock and Miss Budweiser. He was saying that all the other boats got a fast start, and he was ready to kind of lay in the weeds and make a move on them once the race started. Now with 15 seconds to go, it's all about jockeying for position.
Everybody right where they want to be at about the 10-second mark, turning left to head for start-finish. Villwock back a bit in lane 3, but he'll have good boat speed. Hanauer will have the inside as the clock ticks down to 0.
And the start is a clean one. It's Chip Hanauer and Miss Pico in lane 1 with the lead. But as you mentioned, Miss Budweiser was back in the pack before the starting line and picking up speed already in turn 1.
Dave Villwock's view has a boat ahead of him. We don't see this very often in the Budweiser on-boat camera. That is our leader, but look at the Budweiser come around the outside as Villwock tries to drive around Chip Hanauer.
It might turn out to be just as he planned it. If you talk to Dave Villwock before the race, he tells you that he's going to wait for the other boats to get ahead and then use that power that the Budweiser has to pull ahead once the race starts. That's exactly what he's done. Now it's the Budweiser in the lead on one of the straightaways, followed by Chip Hanauer.
And he has control now, Rich. The Budweiser can dictate the radius. He has to leave a lane for Hanauer, but it doesn't have to be a big one, and that doesn't let Hanauer run really fast and loose like he'd like to. The Budweiser now with almost a rooster tail lead over the second place Miss Pico.
And as we talked about this entire show, Budweiser, Pico, the two boats to beat right now. They're traveling 1 and 2 with Budweiser in first.
Villwock ran that lap at 147, almost 148 miles per hour. But remember, Rich, he did it out in lane 2 or 3, so he's moving much quicker than that as we see the view down that long front straightaway where his top speed will actually approach 200 miles per hour.
And there's Villwock on the outside, followed by Miss Pico and Chip Hanauer, who's got the inside lane, trying to gain some ground on Miss Budweiser. But as we've seen throughout the heats today and throughout all of last season and the early part of this season, that's a very tough task to overcome Miss Budweiser.
As we said earlier, you want to hang in there in case the leader bobbles, but this team in red doesn't bobble very often. Hoping they'll make a mistake is really a long shot. The eye in the sky, a beautiful picture of Bernie Little's Miss Budweiser. Bernie, of course, up from Lakeland, Florida, all the way to Barrie, Ontario, to watch his team hopefully pick up their first victory in 1999.
And let's not forget, pardon the pun, if you will, Steve, Dave Villwock has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder coming into this race, losing the first event of the year in Havasu City to Chip Hanauer. A triumphant return for Hanauer, but right now it looks like Dave Villwock is the man to beat once again.
You have to wonder what would have happened had we not had to restart this heat as Villwock laps the Master Tire here. Pico coming along in second place. In the original start of the final heat, Hanauer had a big advantage. He had a lot of boats between him and the Budweiser. Obviously, he doesn't have that going for him here, as Villwock able to get around him, take the lead, and he's going to cruise to victory unless something happens. Look at the big margin now between the Budweiser and the second place Pico, the boat on the left of your screen.
And now it's looking like almost a foregone conclusion that Miss Budweiser will win this final. And like you said, you can only ask what if you're the Chip Hanauer Miss Pico team. Fred and Jackie Leland, Ken Dryden, the crew chief, Steve Lamson, everyone has to be looking at this race saying that first race final that we started, we had such a good start, had a real legitimate shot at making it 2 for 2 on the 99 season. Lo and behold, this is what happens in hydroplane racing. Someone goes upside down, we restart the final, and Miss Budweiser takes advantage.
Somewhere between 200 miles per hour, which is really fast and a little bit dangerous, and 150 or so, where the boats tend to ride kind of rough, there's a comfort zone. And Dave Villwock now can kind of settle into that as we watch Freddy's Club come through the turn with Steve David driving back in third place. So Villwock can kind of find a comfortable area now, just complete this race, keep it right side up, and he's going to win the first race ever held here in Barrie, Ontario.
Make no mistake about it, he is keeping the hammer down as the hydroplane Miss Budweiser, the big red boat, heads into the home stretch.
That water is rough. If you're out there in your 20-footer, you're going to get banged around a lot. You see what he's trying to do, which is skim across the top of those rollers, and the boat really gets its best boat ride at a fairly fast speed for that very reason, riding on that cushion of air.
Miss Pico in second place. You know, Steve, Pico, Budweiser, they get all the face time because they're the boats out in front. It's easy to forget, but let's not forget. Steve David having a very good day on Kempenfelt Bay and Barrie. There he is in third place, right behind him in fourth. Greg Hopp, who is really doing a good job solidifying his status as Rookie of the Year for the Unlimited Hydroplanes. But it is Dave Villwock and Miss Budweiser taking the checkered flag and winning its first event of the year in the second race of the '99 season. So Dave Villwock and Miss Budweiser win the Budweiser Thunderfest in Barrie. Chip Hanauer and Miss Pico take second place. It's a disappointing second place finish for Chip Hanauer, to be sure, but it is Miss Budweiser and Dave Villwock, and Steve's on the docks with Bernie.
Bernie, that's just about a perfect day. 4 victories, 1,600 points. What could be better?
Don't get no better than that. You've been here a long time, and you know what it takes to get in that position. And I'll tell you, we're real happy with those points.
I know you made the race possible with the sponsorship. You kind of won your own trophy, which you've done before, but I'm sure your friends to the north here will be very pleased.
Oh, they're going to be really pleased, especially when tomorrow morning in the newspaper it says Budweiser all the way.
Congratulations to Bernie Little, Dave Villwock, and the Miss Budweiser team. A first-place finish, followed by Miss Pico. In third was Freddie's Club. Fourth place goes to Greg Hopp, United Furniture. In fifth was Master Tire, and not finishing the race after that crash, in sixth place, Mark Webber. Dave Villwock and company still the leader after 2 events of the '99 season on the high points total.
David, any way that could have gone any better for you?
No, this Bud team is awesome right now, I tell you. You know, a lot of people give me some slack for saying how good they really are, but they gave me a perfect boat ride all weekend long, never missed a beat. Mark Smith, Lauren, sorry, the rest of the guys, unbelievable. I mean, we were just totally unbeatable today. They came here to a new course. It was very, very different and set it up perfectly from day one. And then we were able to carry that initiative and that inertia into today. So, you know, and we got a lot of practice at the starts too. Boy, we run a lot of time. So this thanks to Budweiser, Ralph's, Las Vegas, Bernie Little, who allowed me to come back after my injury a couple of years ago. So thank you very much, Bernie.
Good. That kicked her out.
Yeah, I think we said, see. I told you I was going to kick Hanauer's ass really bad this weekend. He's going to be sore for a couple of weeks, I think.
Steve, this really sets the stage for the rest of the Hydro's '99 season as Chip Hanauer salutes Dave Villwock. Friends, maybe. Foes, definitely on the '99 season.
I have never seen the Budweiser team more determined than they were here in Barrie. They lost the final race of 1998. They lost the first event of 1999, and they were not going to lose this one. Now, Chip Hanauer can finally relax a little bit and go over and congratulate his former crew chief and teammate.
Oh, now the camera's on. I'm going to go back to Bushman.
What a great rivalry this is going to be for the rest of the '99 season. And Steve, we still got a long way to go.
And a lot of great boat racing. The team you see on the left there, Greg Hopp, a very quick haul. Steve David in the Freddie's Club. We know he can race on the boat that's getting upside down right here. The York International is another team you'll have to contend with.
The York and the other boat that crashed, Miss Madison, going to have to work overtime if they want to get on the water for our next event in Evansville. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of the Go Network, go.com.